Is this on? Oh, okay. Hey guys, it's Elle's voice, and welcome back to another podcast. I know I've been gone for a week. I mean, like maybe a week or two. I've been gone. But I've been missing in action lately because, well, a lot of stuff has been going on. I had to deal with some pressure, you know, stress of online classes coming up, as well as getting enrolled. And not only that, I had to take care of a lot of family business, some personal stuff. So I took a break, and I think it's important to take a break. So I give myself that. And here I am again. I'm back with another podcast. So you've probably already read what this title for this podcast is, and yeah, it's hard pills to swallow. There are a lot of hard truths out there that we'd all like to avoid, right? And I kind of took into consideration all of the things that I have personally gone through. I have taken into account all of the things that I've done and that I've learned from, and I tried to figure out what would be a good topic for this next podcast. So I thought, hey, you know what? Let's talk about something that most of us are going through. Most of us have already figured out by now. So, therefore, I have this podcast, Hard Pills to Swallow. So, as I said, there are a lot of hard truths out there that we'd all like to avoid, and unfortunately, it's pretty much impossible. You can keep denying a truth when it's shoved in your face over and over, or you can swallow it and learn from it and move on. Life can be pretty hard sometimes, right? And we always try to compromise and make things easier for ourselves so we can live as happy as we think we can. Sometimes, though, when we're compromising, we ignore some obvious things in life. And when those things come back at us, it can be pretty hard to accept. Personally, I have a list of the pills I have to swallow to look at every day, so I stop making myself the victim in all my misery. And as I was listing down some of these, I found it very therapeutic, and it made me feel good to be able to list down these things. I guess I kind of convinced myself that these are the things that I've gone through and that I've overcome. And because of all of it, I came out to be the person that I am now, and to be honest, I'm hella proud of it. These have been some of the hardest lessons that I've had to learn in my life, and I'm thankful to have learned them. And I actually found peace in knowing that so many of us go through the same things, and that we're all just trying to get by each passing day. So, with that, I'm gonna share some of the hardest pills to swallow, and I hope some of you guys relate. I'm sure actually most of you will be able to relate to this. So number 1, not everyone is going to like you no matter how nice you are. I actually had to learn this the hard way, but so before I actually forced myself to always tell people, hello, good morning, good evening po, make small unnecessary talk and all that. And I always tried to be super nice to everyone as much as possible because I would always want to put their needs and satisfaction first rather than mine. I know for a fact that at some point of my life I've been a people pleaser, and as time went by, I finally got to lessen it. Well, for the reason that no matter how nice you are to someone, they're still not gonna like you. Again, not everyone will like you, and that's how humans are. They don't know you, and only you know you. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, if you know you're a good person, you don't need their approval. Just be more welcoming and warming, only to make your environment more livable for you. We can't actually block people out of our lives and pretend that their opinions about us don't affect us. Because we're social beings. We get affected by things that we hear. But what you can do is, you can learn how to be a little more welcoming. And the ones who still hate you, well, see, you can't really change that. You can try if it's that important to you. Talk to them, humanize them, and they will do it to you too. the good outcome of it is that you'll be less afraid. But if they still hate you, just let it go. You're a good enough person for yourself. So, by the way, you guys, I actually looked into the qualities of a people pleaser, and a people pleaser is one of the nicest and most helpful people you know. They're usually the ones that never say no. You can always count on them for a favor. In fact, they spend a great deal of time doing things for other people. They get their work done. They help others do their work. They make all the plans, and they're always there for either family members, friends. So far I know, it kind of sounds like a good thing, right? But unfortunately, it can be an extremely unhealthy pattern of behavior. I looked it up, and people pleasers fear two things most, and that's number one, fear of rejection, and number two, fear of failure. So, for fear of rejection, it's kind of like that feeling na parang, pag hindi ko to ginawa, baka iwan niya ako, or baka mag-stop na siya mag-care for me. If I don't do everything I can to make this person happy, they might leave. Something like that. So that's kind of like the underlying feeling of fear of rejection. Now, for the fear of failure, it's kind of like, for example, if I make a mistake, I will disappoint people and they'll leave me alone, kind of like something like that. Na parang pag nagkamali ka, wala nang may gusto sa'yo, in a way of people pleasing, yun nga. So, the thing is, no matter how nice you are, not everyone is gonna like you. Sabi nga sa first hard pill to swallow, kasi there are certain things, actually. There are certain things that we can't control, and everyone has a mind of their own, and everyone has likes and dislikes. Kaya minsan, kailangan mo na lang tanggapin sa sarili mo na you can't please everyone. And accept that not everyone will like me when I realize that I don't like everyone either. Diba? It's kind of like a two-way thing, diba? So, here's the second hard pill to swallow. Number 2 is everybody is toxic at some point in their life, even you. How you correct those toxic behaviors is what defines you. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the word toxic is a bit of a buzzword right now. Everybody seems to be using that term. And it actually has a lot of emphasis on letting go of toxic people, which, is very important for people to leave, especially if it's like a abusive relationship. So, you may not have realized it, or you may not have registered it, but at some point in time, these things happen readily and regularly, often without us even noticing. Tayo kasi ayaw natin mismo aminin sa sarili natin na toxic tayo, kasi if ever na kinlame natin na toxic tayo, or we were told that uy, toxic ka, we would have behaved differently if we have known the both sides of the story. I don't know if you guys get that, but technically that's the idea. So none of us are perfect, and that sometimes having good intentions doesn't always rid us of toxic results, because the sooner we actually realize this, the sooner we can end the cycles of toxicity instead of endlessly pointing fingers at each other. Ako, I acknowledge the fact that I have toxic qualities and that I have been toxic to some people, and believe me, it took me a whole year to recognize that, and slowly I began to unlearn it. There's a saying nga, diba? I am toxic to some and a blessing to others. Kasi a lot of toxicity is accidental. A lot of it is innocent, and a lot of it is approached with genuinely positive intentions. Now, from my experience, what makes a person toxic is how much they depend on others when they're concluding to a fault. So they're kind of like the type of people that flip a whole situation around, and they always blame their faults onto someone else. They never actually own up to their own mistakes, and for some reason, I kind of noticed how these people tend to feel superior to others in a way. Kasi the toxic behavior, it sort of manifests itself into manipulation, control, and belittling. Kind of like a superiority complex or something. I don't know if that's the same for all of you listening out there. I don't know, but that's something I've observed from the people who used to be part of my life that I consider toxic. Also, I don't know if this will help you, but while I was unlearning, and I'm actually still learning to unlearn my toxic behaviors, I gave myself some time to reflect and consider how I treat others. I would ask myself things like, do you often take physically or emotionally from your relationships without offering back? And you guys, if you are concerned that you think you possess toxic qualities, it's important to sit down with a person that you trust, a friend or family, and ask them if your relationship with them drains them. If they ever felt like it's an uneven or sometimes it's unfair for them time to time. Kasi, to self-reflect is important, and it's critical how well you respect your own and others' boundaries. And as for attracting toxic people, I kind of disagree that some people draw in the drama, but I do believe that many people are blind to it, and let it happen. For example, in a certain classroom situation, you kind of see that something is not right, and you're just there watching it all happen instead of speaking up. So kind of like when you find yourself being spoken down to or walked over or talked over, otherwise used for support, I think it's because not many of us have the guts to call out someone's behavior, because we too might think that we have the same toxic qualities. It'll take a good amount of self-reflecting and brutal honesty, and it can be very uncomfortable to come to the terms with the idea that you might be unknowingly being toxic to those around you. It's something I've gone through myself, and it cost ending a friendship that woke me the heck up. This was actually 2 years ago, and I still struggle with self-confidence issues that encourage me to fall back to toxic, relying, and using others, but it's something I promised myself I'll never let happen again. Being aware and active is important, and not letting yourself get complacent. Last point to this hard pill to swallow is that if you do discover some undesirable qualities, please do not beat yourself up for not noticing them sooner. Many people spend their entire lives in ignorant bliss, and it actually takes guts and humility to start a journey of change and discovery. Just be glad that you found them when you did. And prior to this, we learn to forgive ourselves for the toxicity we did not mean to cause. Forgiving yourself kasi is important as forgiving others. Reliving your mistakes over and over is guilt. And guilt it can be toxic. That's why you should always forgive yourself. You can't really move forward in life unless you forgive yourself. And please forgive yourself for not knowing what you know before you learned it. You have to be able to release the need to replay those negative thoughts or situations that is playing over and over in your mind. Don't become a hostage, if that's the right term. Don't become a hostage to your past by reviewing and reliving your mistake. Stop reminding yourself on what you should have or shouldn't have done when those things happen. Just release it and let it go, and with that, you'll be able to learn to forgive each other for it. But, ito very important to guys. If someone has really affected you in the most negative way possible, keep in mind that Forgiveness does not require reconnection. Please set boundaries. If a person violates your boundaries repeatedly, you have no obligation to let that continue. If you tell them to stop and they don't, the only alternative is to set conditions such as, that those boundaries cannot be violated again and again. Sometimes it involves, leaving or removing them or removing yourself from the picture. And if a person repeatedly violates boundaries and cannot be discouraged from doing so, then the option is to cut them out or allow the boundaries to be repeated, over and over, and you don't want that. It's not, because a lot of people say that it's unreasonable to not want your boundaries, be violated, but that's actually a violation of your own self. It's kind of like allowing disrespect in your life. So, many of the people who need to be cut out are actually very abusive, and sometimes it takes us a while to see that because of, if you guys know the saying, wearing rose-colored glasses, even though there's so many red flags and you're just ignoring them, I think it's time to remove those glasses and just open your eyes to what's in front of you. And if that person is just violating your boundaries over and over, please don't hesitate to cut them out. So generally, the advice I'm trying to say is to cut toxic people out of your life. And, the advice to cut toxic people out of your life comes with the assumption that you've exhausted all options. For example, you've given them so many chances already, and they still come back disrespecting you. Of course, people should try to deal with others in a constructive way and learn to live with whoever they consider to be toxic. But what if it's not working, right? It's not the lazy option. It's actually the more difficult option. Kasi you have to make a conscious effort to cut someone out of your life. And sometimes yung mga tao na kina-cut off natin sa buhay natin these are people that we are intimately involved. For example, family members, our exes, old friends. And that means that there is actually a real human bond that you have to come to terms with breaking, which is hard. And people typically do not react kindly to being cut off. That's a fact. And it takes a certain amount of strength and dignity to be able to walk away from someone like that. So please take note of that. Okay, so now we're gonna go and move on to the third hard pill to swallow. For the third hard pill to swallow, not everyone is meant to be your friend forever. People talk a lot about the friends we make on the way, the relationships we forge for life, but no one talks about the friendships we end up losing. And when we fail at friendships, we end up blaming ourselves for not being able to maintain a good or meaningful connection. There are plenty of reasons why friendships fall apart. For example, we fall out of touch, we have differences and fights happen, which is normal. Some friends need to be cut out of our lives, and sometimes friends just simply drift apart. Losing friends doesn't make you a bad friend, because every friendship has served its own purpose in your life, and the truth is, no one is to blame. Unfortunately, during our 20s, even the longest of friendships can meet their ending. We might figure out that some of our friends are not the same as they were 10 years ago, and we wonder when they became the person they are today. Well, they became that person when you became the one that you are, because both of you grew alone. You guys had time to grow out of your old selves. Now, sometimes our connections with other people can fade for no reason whatsoever. But what nobody tells you is how to handle all of that. It can actually cause tons of damage to your self-confidence. Trust me, I didn't leave my house for months. So don't get discouraged to move on to a different friend group or putting yourself back out there. You are learning and you're human. the hardest part is starting to talk more and being honest with your own opinions without the worry of backlash. Actually, basically just saying what's on your mind. And once you break out of these walls, trust me, you'll be unstoppable, or you'll feel unstoppable. So anyway, losing friends is normal, and that's life. It's not something to be afraid of or something to dread. You really never have people forever. Some stay for a short period, and some stay a lot longer, and some remain with you. What's important is that you enjoy what you have now, cherish it, and appreciate it. If someone wants to let go, it's okay. You can always be there so the person knows what they can always talk to you about, or that they can rely on you. But if that person wants you out, stay out. Don't push it. As we lose friends, we gain new ones, and I think that makes life interesting. Sa totoo nga, maintaining friendships is hard work. It takes up your time and even resources. Well, while there are some friendships you cherish and wish to maintain for as long as possible, some just aren't worth investing in anymore. Not that those friendships you aren't interested in anymore are necessarily bad, it's just that you're older now and have outgrown them. And as we grow older, we change. Our friends also change, as do the things that we have once bonded with. Basically, this pill teaches us that even the closest of bonds can be severed, and sometimes goodbye is okay. Deep connections and shared experiences don't go away. Well, there you have it, you guys. Those are some of the hard pills to swallow that I wanted to share with you. I actually have a few more other than those 3. Oh, and maybe you guys have some of your own hard pills to swallow that you'd like to share with me. Just let me know. My DMs are always open, and who knows, I might make a part 2 of this. Well, there you go, you guys. That's it for this podcast. Hope you guys found my pills, in fact, hard to swallow and that you were able to relate. As always, this is Elle's voice signing off. Keep safe, you guys, and goodbye.